In this slide, we will look at Fortnite and how it affects cognitive development by looking at how the brain is changing during adolescence, the use it or lose it factor, Piaget's theory on cognitive development, how Fortnite can hinder sleep, and the cognitive abilities towards making decisions. To understand how Fortnite affects cognitive development, we must first understand what is happening inside the adolescent's brain. During adolescence, the brain is rapidly changing. When puberty begins, there is a large increase of synaptic connections known as an overproduction of exuberance, the thickening of synapse connections. Synapses are the connections between neurons, our brain cells. Most of the overproduction of synapses occurs in our brain's gray matter, which mainly includes bodies of neurons and unmyelinated axons. Most of the overproduction of synaptic connections happens within the frontal lobes, which involves high functions of the brain, such as planning ahead and problem solving. Why is this important when it comes to looking at brain development and playing Fortnite? Because after the peak of production, synaptic pruning begins to take place, better known as use it or lose it. What activities adolescents are involved in is what's going to stick. The average brain loses 7% to 10% of gray matter between 12 to 20 years old because of synaptic pruning. The use of Fortnite with adolescents is rising rapidly, which means if adolescents are spending their time gaming, those cells will be hardwired, while other essential cells and connections that could be used during that time, such as doing homework, playing sports and music, or being outside, are withering away. On the other hand, the article Your Child's Brain on Technology states that shooting games show activity in multiple brain regions including attention, such as selective and sustained, and also visuospatial, the ability to identify visual and spatial relationships. Though this could lead to jobs such as engineering and mathematics, in order to get a full growth of your brain, you need to participate in a wide variety of activities. Also, we are preparing the brain to begin thinking more abstractly. If we look at Piaget's theory of cognitive development, and adolescents are in the formal operations stage, in which people learn to think systematically about possibilities and hypotheses. Researchers found that the capacity for abstract thinking is based on the strengthening of connections. Another important factor for brain and adolescent development is sleep. The documentary Inside the Teenage Brain states adolescents on average get around 7.5 hours of sleep per night when they need approximately 9.5 hours. Less sleep hinders their ability to think and act appropriately. If the adolescents are playing Fortnite right before bed, there's going to be a rise of dopamine, the feel-good chemical, in their brain, which makes them revved up on adrenaline, and it is much more likely their body clocks are going to be affected or going to sleep poorly. Getting a good night's sleep is important to help retain information learned throughout the day and prepare for the next day. Cognitive psychologist Daniel Keating researched adolescence and decision-making. Though he explains that adolescents are better at anticipating consequences of possible choices than pre-adolescents, most adolescents make decisions based on social and emotional factors. So, when they're at a time when they need to go to bed or do homework, most of their decisions will be affected by peers and being accepted, and in turn can hinder their cognitive development